Alright, for those that just got in the O Club, in the briefing text channel is a link to my screen and also the password for the dedicated server today. Alright, and let's go ahead, since we're all here, we'll jump down to Alpha. Alright, is everyone in so they can see my screen?
Yep.
Alright, so I see 14. I can't remember if that includes myself or not, so if there's anyone not in, chime in now before I proceed.
Mine's thing.
Ha ha ha.
Alright, I think we're good. So everyone should see basically the cover sheet of the PowerPoint slide. Alright, so roll call. Vader 1 is myself and Oliver. Vader 2 is Kennelly and Reb. Vader 3, Iron Hog and Striker. Vader 4, Kimmy and Tordillo. Chewie 1 is Odin and Emmy. Chewie 2, Scaly and Hiccup. And Venom 1 is Amy, Trigger, and Recon. We'll be leaving El Dafra uncontrolled, aka we don't have any human controller. Same thing for the AWACS 148.9, and it's magic. And then we've got two tankers. The 135 is Shell, and or excuse me, the 130 is Shell. The 135 is Texaco. And then, lucky me, I'm the mission commander, but with what Oliver and I are going up to, it may get handed over. Basic agenda, I'm not going to read through this, but this is the things we're going to cover in the briefing this morning, or this afternoon, early evening, depending on where you're at. Alright, so the weather, basically winds at 3 knots from 331, temperatures 31 Celsius. Altimeter is 2986. Verify that, the altimeter, because as many times as I got on here and tested, that's the one thing I always forgot to actually pay attention and look at to make sure it's the runway elevation. Mission start time, so about 2 minutes have ran, but when we get in there, it's around 0130 Zulu or 0530 local. Plan is to taxi by 0145 Zulu or 0555 local, and then first takeoffs by 0610 local. As we're going through the slides, anything that's in purple is a specific 5/10 tasking, and anything in red is a 76 tasking. And I've gotten a couple messages about, are there really F-14s with Phoenix missiles? If someone, any pilot goes north of 2623 north, we will have some Iranian Tomcats launching to come play with us. So do not go north, and you can see the line right there. And then the map on the right is just basically an overview, so you can see magic where its orbit at. Texaco and Shell basically have the same orbit, just at different altitudes. El Minhad Air Base is a divert if for some reason you have a random failure on the way to either Siri Island or Greater Tunby. If you're already in the engagement area, Abu Masa is a blue airfield that simulated Spec Ops went in and took over for us. Alright, so basic scenario overview. U.S. did some more sanctions against Iran. They're threatening to build up anti-ship missiles to stop the flow of freight and oil out of the strait. None of the anti-ship missiles are there yet. Part of that's because the model's not in DCS yet. So for us, we're going to take out the construction sites for SAMs on both islands. The overall group objective, number one, is let's just have fun. Take it seriously, but not too seriously. And then the big thing as a group that I really want feedback from any and everyone once we're done is, adopting a second airframe. We definitely have some learning to do, especially planning as a package as a whole. So those are kind of the group objectives. 5/10 objectives is to damage or destroy the cargo ships that have the anti-ship missile batteries at Greater Tunby Island, and then they'll switch to provide cap for the 76th. 76 objectives is the live Hawk site, the Hawk construction sites, and the island communication tower, and there's a headquarters building right by the tower, as well as destroy the command and control buildings on Greater Tunby and the SA-11 construction sites. So basically that's what we've been tasked to do. And as I'm going through, if anyone has questions, just chime in. This is just, again, kind of more almost zoomed out view. Again, don't cross 2623 north, because if we do, we're going to have some Hornets, or not Hornets, excuse me, some Tomcats launching out of, I think it begins with a B. I don't remember all the name of the airfields, but it's, so you got...
Andarabas.
Yes, thank you. Basically launching out of there as fast as I possibly can to try and ruin our day. Sierra Island is right here, and that's primarily where Vader flight will be engaging, or flights. And Greater Tunby is right here, and that's Chewie and Venom. And then the 5/10, I believe, is going to be creating a cap orbit in this general area. Again, that's the type of things that me as a ground pounder pretty much leave up to. I'm kind of thinking for future kind of LFEs like this, which, oh, by the way, my intent is to try and do this at a minimum of every other month. Hopefully once a month, but definitely every other month. And then hopefully some other folks will help out and take that as well occasionally. For myself, the biggest or the most workload outside of the mission editor was putting all this data together. I probably spent more time doing that than actually building the mission. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Whoops, sorry. Again, Texaco and Shell's orbit. And Trigger, I saw where when you asked the question about the orbit, you also asked about the lat long. It is on your MDC now. That was one of the things I knew I needed to fix this morning, so you guys should be good on that. Magic's orbit is on there as well, way out of the way for any of us. And then this blue down here at Abu Naya, or Nair, however you pronounce it. So basically, sometime during the mission, some Chinooks are going to launch out of there and fly up to Siri Island to drop off some special forces. So any Vader flights that are in the area, that will be supporting them as well. There's not any kind of message or anything that's going to come on the screen. Again, I'm kind of new with the mission editor, and I don't trust all that stuff because a couple of messages that are supposed to come up for the tankers I haven't seen pop up in testing either. But basically, they're just saying they're on station, but it's not that big of a deal. Really, if anyone refuels, it'll be the Hornets. I think the A-10s will be good enough with what we can carry fuel-wise internally. Their planned on-ground time at Siri Island is 10 minutes, if I remember correctly. The helicopters are set to invincible. The ground troops that they are dropping off are not. General strike overview. So takeoff order is Vader 1, Chewie 2, Vader 2, 3, and 4, and then Venom. Main reason the Hornets are last is 1, because they drink fuel like an alcoholic drinks alcohol, and 2, they can obviously catch up and pass us a lot quicker. Attack order: Vader 1 at Siri Island and Chewie 1 at Greater Tunby, and then Venom 1 so they can switch over to Cap. Basically, once those 3 things are done, all other flights are cleared in. So the code words for what's going on in the general areas will be key. So leads for Chewie 2 and Vader 2 through 4. Just make sure you're on top of that. RTB back to El Dafra. As you get done, you're clear. If we all kind of stick around, then we'll just stack as I put in the MDC. For weapons, 76, stick with what the scowls I loaded for y'all, and the 510th again. You guys are the experts on your aircraft, so I left that at Amy and/or Trigger's discretion. And then basically over here, the red is Vader 1's flight plan, and then the purple is Venom 1's. For Siri Island, general threats is the live Hawk site that's down here on the southwest, and that's what Oliver and I will be going after. There are AAA and man pads strategically located on there, and as well there's F5s and the F14s on alert. Again, if everyone stays south of the do not cross line, we won't have to deal with the 14s. The 14s are pretty much there to for the situational awareness, just to make sure we pay attention to where we're at. Primary targets on the island are the live Hawk battery. Eventually support the insertion of Spec Ops, which is this yellow area down here. Western Hawk site, the Northern Hawk site, the command and control building and tower here, and then the cargo ships. For the guys going in on the cargo ships, there are supplies that are already offloaded in this general area, and there is some AAA and a man pad in this general area as well. So if you get visual on those after your initial attack on the cargo ships, you're clear to re-attack to try and lighten up the enemy forces in this area to protect our Spec Ops folks when they get inserted. Greater Tunby, basically the same thing. There's no live Hawks on Greater Tunby, and you should not get in the threat envelope, but just be advised that on Siri there is that live Hawk site until Oliver and I engage it. Throughout the island again, there's AAA and man pads, excuse me. And again, the F5 and F14s in Iran that are on alert. Primary target for the 510th is the cargo ships. For the 76, you got the command and control building that's right here, command and control tower that's right there. Western SA-11 construction site, the southern site, and the northern site. Because we had folks drop out, right now only one S11 site is actually targeted, but Chewie flights, you guys are clear to coordinate striking the west and the north sites as you guys see fit.
Quick question for you, Snoopy.
Yep.
Do we know the orientation of those cargo ships? Are they going to be lined up north to south or east to west?
They're pretty much east to west. So I've got them so they actually somewhat look like they're docked.
And then if we've got extra munitions, you want us to take out that southern SA-11 construction site if we can?
Not the southern one. The southern one is the one that is targeted right now. Actually, I would prefer you guys drop all your dumb munitions on the cargo ships to switch over to the capital. Once you guys actually get some smart munitions and some seed type stuff, then there would have been extra taskings, but again, it's who knows when ED will have those things ready for us.
Copy.
Snoopy, according
Yep.
to our MDC, we're on the western side.
Okay. So we'll just keep it like that, though. For right now, Venom, the cargo ships, and the western site. Sorry, I had to switch things like 3 different times from people dropping out this week, so memory
No worries.
is failing me. Alright, so the general threats, again, is the Hawk, Manpads AAA, and the alerts. So until the live Hawk is knocked out, program Alpha. And then once that's, I would just basically have, for the A10s, obviously, this only applies, program Charlie ready to go for the Manpads. All the A10s have AIM-9s, but kind of like real world, if it gets into where we're having to engage air-to-air threats, bad juju happen with 5/10.
Snoopy, do Vader flights 2, 3, and 4 hold off until you've taken care of the Hawk?
Yes. And I will clear you guys in as soon as we have that taken care of.
So we will be holding somewhere off, or how's that going to work?
We'll get there.
Okay.
All right, kind of already went over this, so I'm not going to go through it again. Basically, highest elevation on the island is 62 feet. Pretty much same thing here, although the elevation is at 72 feet. You will, as the sun comes up, there are some static objects, some helicopters and stuff right here. Not a threat, not going to do anything, just eye candy more than anything. Make it kind of look like the airfield is alive. Kind of same thing back on Siri. There's what looks like there would be some alert F5s or something at the airfield, but they're just static objects. They're not going to do anything, just eye candy. So overall execution, primarily for deconfliction, is time. The sectors for A10s, TAD, TACAN, and situational awareness. For Siri Island, there are the targets, and they're on the MDC, so I'm not going to run through those. For Vader 2, because you have 3 GBU 10s, defuel to 90% to get under the gross weight. And for Greater Tun Island, Chewy 1, same thing, defuel to 90 because you have 3 GBU 10s. Alright, so we've done some ops out of El Dafra, but not much. So we'll I'll walk through kind of the general taxi flow. I was hoping to get the in-flight guide and the flip done before today, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So 76 individual flights, do all 3 checks on radio to include secure, although we'll only be securing Fox mic for your inter-flight communications. And 5/10, you're down to 1 flight, so just check when you're ready. Plan is to, as a package, I'll do a roll call at 20 minutes after we're in there on uniform, just to see where everyone's at. Hopefully everyone's good and we can press. Taxi calls, basically we'll taxi in the order that I just went over. So if you don't remember, let me know and we'll go back to that slide. We'll try and stay at 1-3 left arm for as short amount of time as possible. So basically the way the ramps are set up, buzzard ramp, 5/10, you guys are all under sunshades. A10s, we don't get any of that. You guys are basically facing the direction of the arrow to the right of the map, and then the vanguards were all facing towards the runway. For both rows that are here, disregard the vanguard backup. That was when we had 12 A10 flights. Basically, you're going to come out of your spot, follow the taxi line to the left, turn to the right, and then go down the main taxiway. And then the 5/10, it's pretty much straightforward. Come out, take a right, or take a left and then take a right. I believe in the sim right now, this taxiway is like Alpha 6, but basically it's going to be dark, but once you get past where it's what's labeled as a helo pad, it's going to be your next right. You just follow that down, follow the taxiway, and as you can see, start parking to the right and then stack to the left, reconfigure, and then proceed to 1-3 left. If you do have to divert, or not divert, but abort on your takeoff roll, come off here, and I can't remember what taxiway, Charlie, but again, it's not labeled in DCS right now, and then taxi down here to 3-1 right, D-arm, in another chart when we talk the recovery ground ops, it has a taxi flow in there. Any questions on the launch ground ops? Alright, so we're going to do a visual departure even though it's nighttime. Basically, do not turn towards Gogme until you have passed the end of 1-3 right, and then you're clear to turn left at Gogme. For Vader flights, hold there. Basically stack, because I didn't put that in there. Stack at 1,000 feet, or excuse me, 500 feet above the elevation that's on the MDC, which I believe is 15,000. So Vader 2, 15.5, Vader 3, 16, and Vader 4 at 16.5. Once we get to our IP, we being Vader 1, I'll clear you guys to start flying to the next waypoint, because if all goes well, we'll have the Hawks knocked out before you guys get into the area. From Gogme, that's where we kind of break up, where Vader's heading to Siri Island, and Chewie and Venom is headed to Greater Tunby Island. So Vader flight will head to Orlik, and actually, I stand corrected, don't orbit at Gogme, go ahead and orbit at Orlik, 500 feet above what your the altitudes I just gave. For Chewie flight, go.
Yeah, one question about this orbit. It's like north-south 10 miles legs, or
just whatever's easiest. Just don't run into each other, because I didn't take that into account, so I don't want to sit here and add an extra 10 minutes to the briefing. So just however you feel flight leads, just orbit at the altitude that I just gave.
Okay.
Chewie flight, you guys should be pretty good, just because the separation, and there's nothing that's live to the threat level as there is on Siri Island, so you guys can clear just to proceed and just deconflict by what we're going to go over here in a couple minutes. Alright, so Siri Island, basically I got set up as sectors. There's no altitude restrictions, just try and stay in your general sector. So Vader 1 sector is basically the southwestern portion of the island, Vader 4 the northwest, Vader 3 the northeast, and Vader 2 the southeast. Vader 1 will very likely be cleared out of the area at our hold, waiting to see if we have to go and back up anyone else if for some reason anyone drops out and or takes damage and has to RTB. Comms, so for Siri Island, when you're at the IP, call dark side on the AO common for, and this is just for A10s, for the 510th, do it on Magic's frequency. After your last attack, call Yoda, and then when the very last flight leaves the island, that flight lead will call Tastes Great. And then again, if anyone takes damage, they can try and go to the divert nearby, or if it's not too bad, as a flight, egress to Avala and into Eldafra. For Greater Tumby, because it's not quite as busy. Right now, the only two sectors are Chewy 2 in the southwest, and Venom 1 and Chewy 1 are both in the southeast. I'm pretty sure Venom is going to make it there before Chewy 1 for their engagement of the boats. If not, if you're there about the same time, I'll leave it up to Venom 1 and Chewy 1 to deconflict. Although Chewy 1's target is in the northwestern sector, their IP is down here to the south of the island. And for the code words for Greater Tunby's light side at the IP, Anakin at the after your last attack, less filling when the last flight is leaving the area, and the 5/10 when you're established cap, it's Boba Fett. And again, 5/10 broadcast on Magic's frequency. And then basically the same thing. If you're damaged and you can make it back to Aldafra, proceed directly to Avala and into Aldafra. If not, the abort nearby is fine.
Snoopy, quick question. For
Yep.
the established on Cat, it says here Boba Fett, but in the MDC it says Jabba.
Go with Jabba. Go with Jabba. I forgot I changed that. Go with what's on the MDC, because more than likely no one's going to remember all these words that I'm talking now. So that's my bad. I'll make a note to fix that for when I upload this whole thing as a package.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that I've got the attack order, at least for Greater Tumby Island. So Vader Flight's going to go in. They're going to drop bombs on the cargo ships, establish cap, and then Chewy Flights are going to go in.
So Venom and Chewy 1 can go in at the same time. Chewy 2 will
Okay.
hold.
Got it.
Because basically what that's simulating is, one, we need you guys on cap, so that's why I want you guys to engage relatively quickly. And then Chewy 1, is knocking out basically island communications in the command and control center.
Copy.
And then once everyone's done, down to Avala, fix east. If you have any live ordnance before you get to fix east, or actually at fix east when you're switching over to Aldafra control, broadcast live ordnance, and then you'll fly the TACAN 13 left from fix east into 13 left for a straight in. Basically recovery ground ops, you'll taxi at Bravo to 3-1 D-arm. You can kind of see the taxi flow there. It's kind of funky because there's not really, if we could actually place A-10s wherever we want, kind of like you could the Harrier, we would all actually be operating on the other side of Aldafra, because there actually are EOR type areas for 1-3 right and 3-1 left. But unfortunately there's not really any good ones for 1-3 left and 3-1 right, so I basically had to wing it. But anyways, follow taxi flow there, as little time in the D-arm as possible, and then taxi back to Buzzard or Vanguard ramp, and once you're parked you are clear to shut down. Again, sport assets, we got 130 tanker for the Hornets at 19,000. We've got a 135 for the A-10s. Again, shouldn't need it. That's at 15,000. And Abu Musa is the divert airfield, which is kind of almost smack dab in the middle of the islands we're engaging. If you take too much damage and you cannot make it back to Aldafra. If you take damage and you're going to, well, basically anywhere, make sure you jettison your external munitions, because the runway at Abu Musa it's not super short, but it's not super long either, so just keep that in mind. Communications, so I looked through this about 18 times to make sure I had the MDC rights. based on the internal flight comms. I'm not going to run through all that. I uploaded, so hopefully everyone took the opportunity to download the basically the flip, and we'll talk that here real quick in a second, and then the presets. Basically, ComFlow, pre-flight, everyone, LDOFR ground on AM and uniform, and Fox Mike again is only for the A10s, so your specific flight comms, and go secure on aft as soon as we're done with all your internal radio checks. Basically, once we do that check-in at about plus 20, everyone will switch to front magic and, or excuse me, AM magic and UHF LDOFR tower. When you're 5 miles from LDOFR, you'll switch to LDOFR control. LDOFR control, unlike Nellis, it's basically 20 miles out, so after you cross 5 and switch to LDOFR control, you got another 15 miles. Normally we would do Dubai control, but we're not for today. When you are checking out of LDOFR control for the A10s, we'll switch over to AO Common, and then for the 510th, they'll already be on a UHF channel for their inter-flight comms. And then just the opposite when crossing Avala at 20 miles, and then into LDOFR. And actually on here I did update to Java, so I just forgot on that other slide. Any questions on the basic ComFlow or the code words? And basically A10 wise, obviously if something happens to the 510th and they're not in the area, then it'll be on us to check in with the AWACS, but otherwise I'm going to basically leave that to them, and we'll hear the call and response for situational awareness. Contingencies, so basically if there's a knock it off call, get out of the combat area, climb, and head back to LDOFR via your flight plan. If for some reason it's just you're that jacked up, fly direct LDOFR for a straight in. Obviously your call sign and that you've got an IFE, and IFEs have recoveries all over everything else. NORDO in accordance with the TTP, and basically this is more for the 510th because I'm hoping that none of the A10s have to go defensive, but we'll see. Debriefing plan, so the plan will be as soon as everyone's down and shut down, flights will debrief their individual flights, no more than 15 minutes, and then we'll all get back together in Alpha. We'll do a mass debriefing. We'll try and start that 20 minutes after everyone is out. That gives 5 minutes for any bio breaks, need something to drink. And the goal is for the mass debriefing is no more than 20 or 30 minutes. May or may not do online TACView debriefing. We'll see how things go. And basically flow, go over anything that may have popped up, DCS technical issues. Then we'll talk if anyone had any kind of safety of flight type things. And then each flight lead will kind of give a not an in-depth debrief, but if there's any points they want kind of the package as a whole to know about, any lessons learned from threat engagements, or any kind of feedback that you have at the end for the next LFE. And again, I'm going to start a thread specific to kind of lessons learned from multi-airframe operations, so we can talk about stuff in there too. Alright, so before we get to, well actually, any questions before I pull up the LDOFR airport diagram and the 1-3 left TACAN charts? All right, so give me a sec. All right, can you guys see the TACAN chart?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so it's pretty straightforward. Really no different than those of us that flew like the Abora type stuff back into Vaziani. It's pretty straightforward. Fix east, 20 DME into El Dafra. Any questions on that? All right, and then the airport diagram again. I don't have it on here since these will eventually be public, but 5/10th ramp is right here. 76th ramp is right here. We'll be going down here to ARM, and then the D-ARM area is right here. So, yeah, pretty straightforward. Any questions on the airport diagram or the TACAN approach? All right, so if not, that's package brief. I'm showing that it is almost 40 minutes after the hour, so let's all plan on coming back into Alpha at 1900 Zulu, so you guys can break off into your individual flights.
Then flag being Bravo.
Oliver, let's go down to India.
Vader 3, Echo.
Probably not. Yeah, well, some can grab a private room or so. Or we can grab a command staff room.
Ah, good point. Let's go up to CS. All right, so hopefully this will be short and sweet. Let me get rid of this stupid preview. I wish I could remember how to take that off permanently.
Hey, you are aware of the fact that you've been streaming the briefing, right?
I have.
Okay.
That's purposely why I didn't say what the DS2 password was. All right, so any questions on the mass brief? That's pretty straightforward, I think.
Yeah, it's the overall game plan, so no further questions.
All right, so basically the image is our flight plan with time hacks based on hopefully taking off by 0600 local, but I don't have a whole lot of optimistic that that'll happen. So target area, so basically our plan is we're going to go in line from the south at 300 feet AGL from the IP. At about 5 miles, we'll pop up to about 500 feet. Shooter Mavs will go off to the west, reestablish mutual support, and then head back to the IP. So if we can get both launchers on the first attack, we'll be good to go, and then we can take out the equipment. So the plan will be this launcher to the west. That'll be mine, and the launcher to the east will be yours. So we'll have to scan some, but we'll see how it goes.
So we'll just sort in flight geometry.
Yep. And then again, if we get both launchers, and we'll kind of do a visual through the TGP when we get back to the IP, then we'll go in and just gauge whatever equipment we can, because we only have one MAV each, and I want to save our bombs to if we have to go and back someone else up. So basically once we're done with those, then we'll head over here to Abu Musa and set up our orbit.
Right. Nope, makes sense. Hey, you've put in Hotel Mavericks. Have you checked them
Uh,
lately,
it
their
should- it-
effectiveness?
It should have been changed back to Delta.
Delta, right? Got it.
So yeah, when I originally did the MDCs last night, I did notice that. I thought I went in and changed that, but yeah.
Okay, so Deltas.
All right, so let me get out of this. Exit. Okay, remind me to tell everyone that. Maybe I
Okay.
just didn't fix ours. All right, so basically, depart, climb to 15,000. I forgot to mention, I need to mention that too. Transition altitude here is 13,000, which is the real world thingy.
Okay.
So 15,000 at Gogme, 15,000 at Orlik. At Orlik, we'll descend down to the 300 feet into the IP. At the, like I said, at about 5 miles from waypoint 4 is when we'll pop up. If we don't have to pop up to 500 to get visual, then we will basically level off at whatever altitude you can, because there are trees around. Again, we already went through the attack. We'll adjust as needed. If I need to do another fighter to fighter because something else happened, we'll take care of that en route. Do both attacks. Go orbit it Abu Mesa at 2,000. And if all goes well, once everyone is done, then we'll just proceed through the rest of the flight plan. If someone gets knocked out, then we will switch over and try and go knock out their target.
All right.
For loadout, we're going to take 2 AIM-9s, 2 AGM-65 Deltas, and 4 GBU-12s. That way we can drop them as smart or dumb munitions, a TGP and ECM. HEI, which I went through and changed all that on the jet, so you shouldn't have to do that in the reload. And then 240 chaff and 180 flare. Rotation is 134. Our refusal is 124 knots. We're going to take off with, it probably won't be quite at 10.8, but full load. We're not going to defuel any. Joker will be 3,000 and Bingo 2,000. And again, our one and only primary target is the Hawk live site.
Hey, are you going to set up a profile for a stick of 4 GBU-12s with no guidance?
So I had planned on it, and that's the one thing that I brain dumped and did not do today.
Okay, well, I'll just set one up.
Yeah.
I'll just assume a 20-degree RIP 4.
Yep, that works. We got the AWACS, which is on Magic. We got our 135, which again, we shouldn't have any need to go to it, but we'll see. Comms we kind of went over, but we'll start off on preset 1 for ground and push to 15 after package check-in on front. On mid, we'll start off on ground. After package check-in, we'll push to tower. 4 or 5 miles, we'll push Aldafa control. At 20 miles or just before, we'll push. And actually, I did that on everyone's Dubai control. And then AO common at Orlik. And then everything down at the bottom is just general GWiz info, since the Persian Gulf airports aren't in the drop down yet. There's mention of the transition altitude at 13,000. We went over that. Visual departure, remain below 500 AGL. And then once we're past 13 right, we'll turn left directly to Gogme. And there's something else I forgot to update, all those X's. And then the 13 left, tacking approach back after. And those altitudes are stacks at fix east if we all basically get there at the same time, but I don't really think that's going to happen. Threats we already went over. Targets we already went over. They're basically there on the MDC for if someone gets knocked out, so we can back them up. And then there's the passwords again. And then the image is just basically kind of what we just looked at, the general sortie as a whole. Any questions?
Printed the image. Nope. All clear. Went through the documentation already, so should be good.
Sweet. Well, then let's jump back to alpha, and we will wait and see how long it takes everybody.
Oh wait, you've got there's a little error in the remarks of the loadout. You have 240 chaff, 180 flares. I'm assuming that has to be 120 flares.
Yep.
Okay. Have you made notes yourself to mention the transition altitude of 13,000 and the Maverick deltas?
Yes, I did.
Cool.
Thank you. All right, back to alpha. Kevin. Kevin. Say again. Correct. Yeah, we are just going to press. I'm not, yeah. And I purposely did that just because, well, one, I mean, originally this was only set up for like 3 A-10 flights and a couple 5-10 flights, so all the Siri Island stuff has been added since the original mission. But, I mean, I think we only had 2 people drop out, which is not bad compared to how things have gone in the past.